So, not sure if you remember, but in high school, I did a lot of the photography for the yearbook.
You were the yearbook photographer.
Yes.
You were the year. Yes, now it's all coming back to me. Hi, this is Emily from Hopscotch Interactive, and I am super excited because I have a incredible guest today to chat with somebody who I have known since I was probably under the age of 13. I mean, we probably met when I don't know, like forever. I've known Thea Martin for a very long time. She's a wildlife and nature photographer, landscape photographer, and so I have been friends with Thea forever. We're Facebook friends. And most recently, she had one of her photographs featured on the cover of the photographer's, it's the PPA magazine, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay,
Professional
so
photographer.
Professional Photographers Association of America magazine in the April edition, and I saw that and I was just blown away, and so I wanted to get a chance to talk to Thea. So welcome, Thea.
Hi, nice to be here with you. It's been a long time.
I know, I can't believe it. And so I have to say, though, as a friend and somebody who has known you for a really long time, um, I I guess that it was a few years back that I started seeing that you were taking like really nice photographs of like animals and whether these were like, maybe at dog shows or out in wildlife. Like you started posting these like incredible photographs, and
Mhm.
I thought, wow, this is like, is this what Thea does professionally? I had no idea. And I don't know when you started photography. Maybe you can tell me a little bit more about like just how you got to where you're at right now in terms of
Sure,
your interest in photography.
sure. So, not sure if you remember, but in high school, I did a lot of the photography for the yearbook.
You were the yearbook photographer.
Yes.
You were the year, yes, now it's all coming back to me. But Thea, so okay, so just so everybody knows, Thea and I went to middle school and high school together, right? You went to Waluga, right?
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, and we went to camp together also. So I've
Yeah.
known Thea so like literally a million years. And that's right. How many years did you do yearbook?
3 years. I did yearbook for 3 years, and then I also did some of the photography for camp for the slideshows. So, and even before that, I always seemed to have a camera in my hands. My dad is a photographer, and he would always give me cameras. So it's kind of always been around me.
I
And
mean, I feel like I have very vivid memories of going to your house, and for some reason I don't remember the photographs, but I always remember the Huskies. And
yeah,
so that was like that was like a big memory of mine was going to your house and seeing like these beautiful dogs, and is that where it started? Like your interest in photography? Obviously your dad teaching you
yes.
photography, but then maybe an interest in animals, or
Well,
where did that come from?
with the dog shows, we traveled, especially with the dog that I campaigned quite a bit. Um, with him, we traveled extensively with him. And
This is
so,
Mick,
yes,
correct?
yes, it's Mick. And with Mick, um, we went everywhere. And there was 6 weeks that we started in Utah and went all through Montana and ended up in Colorado. And I would always say, "Oh, I wish I had my camera with me, but I have the dogs."
Mm.
And because of everything that we do with the dog shows, having expensive camera equipment there it's hard to secure. So I didn't take a camera with me, but I was seeing a lot of the pretty world. And then there were a couple of life changes, and because of that, I was able to give Mick the opportunity to continue showing in the rest of the world, which was great. And I moved back to Portland, and Dad gave me a camera and said, "Now go do this."
I love that.
And gave me the opportunity to really start traveling in earnest.
Hmm.
And it's great. I really, really like.
Wow. So
Yeah.
can you just remind me, so Mick won a dog show in the category of Siberian Husky. Am I getting it right?
Malamutes. He was, well,
Malamute. Okay, sorry, Malamute.
he was um, the number one Malamute in the country for 2 years in the United States. He won Best Breed at Westminster 2 years. He
Wow.
won the Malamute only show for the big national show. He won that once.
Wow.
Um, and then in Mexico, he was the number one Malamute for a while. And then he had the opportunity to go to Europe, and they do um, the the International Association of Dog Shows does a world show, and he won Best of Breed at the world show.
Oh my gosh. I
Yes.
can't even believe that. And you raised him from
Yes.
being like from when he was a pup, you and another trainer. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, I was following this, but I didn't really talk to you about it. But I feel like I was like cheering you on and seeing all this work that you were doing. But I guess I didn't realize how much travel was involved to these beautiful places. Like you mentioned Utah.
Yeah.
And uh I mean, it sounds like sort of being from the Pacific Northwest, you're already surrounded by so much beautiful,
Hmm.
countryside and the beaches and the mountains and the rivers.
Hmm.
Um, and so I guess so when things changed and you and Mick went on his journey to go to Europe, and
Yep.
then you took your camera and took to the Great Wide Open.
Yes.
And how many years ago was that now, would you say?
5, 6 years ago now.
And so 5 or 6 years ago, I think that
Yes.
that I mean that makes sense
Yeah.
considering like as I've been following you and seeing what
Yeah.
you've been doing, that I feel like I've seen less dog show posts
Yeah.
and more eagles and or more birds and more incredible imagery that you've shot.
Hmm.
And just so I want to ask because I saw this on your website. You are a dedicated Nikon and with Nikkor lenses
Yes.
photographer. Is that
Yes.
correct?
Yes.
Is that
I'm a
because you were from the beginning, your dad was shooting Nikon,
Yeah.
or is it
Yes.
you just love it?
With Nikon, yeah, I mean, he handed me I always had his hand-me-down Nikons. And yeah, and once I started doing things a little bit more seriously to get um to the front of the line on things and to really stay in touch with the technology, I became a Nikon professional. So,
And
and
right,
so
cool.
yeah, I
And so
just
that
stuck with
and
Nikon,
I
and yeah,
so you became a Nikon professional,
yep.
and so are you never without your camera right now? Or does your camera only come out when you know you're gonna go get ready for a shoot and you have a mission? Because it seems like from what I've seen, and maybe this sort of leads into how you got the photograph that made it onto the cover of
Hmm.
the Professional Photography Association magazine cover. Are these like, I mean, they look to me like expeditions. Are they expeditions or are they how are
Sometimes.
you getting these amazing shots?
Well, some of them are planned trips. Some of them, it's knowing how to, if it's from around here, knowing where to go when the light is right, if it's a landscape,
Hmm.
or knowing where to go. Um, you may have seen one of the eagles that I posted lately.
I
Knowing
did.
knowing
Yes,
when to be there when the animals are going to be there.
I see. Was that in Oregon? Is that where you shot that?
That was in Washington,
Mm.
and it's at a location where transient eagles come through on their way north for the summer. And in this specific location, as the tide's going out, it's just this little bay. And when the tide goes out, oyster beds get exposed. In the oyster
Oh.
beds, these fish, these really gnarly looking fish, I think of the one that I posted, there's one of those fish there. These fish get stuck between the oysters.
Oh, wow.
And so the eagles can easily come and get their fill of
It's like a little appetizer. Like the little oysters just hold them up like on a little fork.
yeah, kind of.
But they don't eat the oysters. They just want the
No,
fish.
they just get the fish. Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
Wow. And so this is a spot where transient eagles are going, and so you know where to go. And I feel like also the time of day. So your strategy, I would say, is like know when the best light's going to be there, know when the animals are going to be there. But doesn't that sometimes mean that you are going to be shooting at like crazy hours, like crazy
yeah,
times of the day?
yeah. This morning I was up at like 3:30 to get to sunrise. Yep,
Wow. And
yep,
that shot that you were trying to get, did you have a feeling about the weather today? Because as a photographer, we are in the Bay Area here, and so it's like fog is our nemesis right now.
yeah,
And it does beautiful things, but it also makes capturing certain views and certain moods really hard.
yes,
Kind of stuck with the fog mood.
yes, 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 absolutely. And this morning wasn't as good as yesterday morning, but this is in the Columbia River Gorge, and there is about a 2 month period where the sun hits that area just right where there can be sunbeams coming through the
Hmm.
clouds. And that's kind of what I'm wanting. Yesterday morning, you speak of the fog, we had some really cool fog that created
Mm.
some really cool atmosphere and beams coming through and whatnot. That was very, very cool. Not quite the beams that I want just yet, so it's just kind of a shot that I'm kind of chasing a little bit. But it does take commitment because sunrise is very early right now.
Yeah. Oh, especially up north. I mean, that's the thing is
Yeah.
that the sunrise up north is even earlier than it is here.
It's at 5.
And I do a lot of twilight photography in the summer for
Yeah.
real estate. And that just means that, if we have sunset at, I think it was 8:27 for my shoot on Monday PM,
Hmm.
but you never know because if the house is situated sort of behind a hill, you may have your really nice light, your ambient light may be exactly right like a half an hour before, or maybe it's not going to be till a half hour later. You just don't really know. And so there's definitely, this, I give
Right.
myself a good window because I feel like even if I plan it to the specific location, I still might not exactly know when it's going to be right.
Right. And there's there are a couple apps that I use. I use the Photographer's Amorphous. Have you heard
Hmm.
of that one? TPE?
No, photographer's amorphous.
Amorphous, yes. Uh,
Amorphous.
y-
Okay. I'll write that one
um,
down.
yep. And with that, you can actually it picks up elevations, so you know
Oh.
when there's going to be, when twilight would be, for example, for that specific location, or when the sun will be coming over the horizon if you're in a mountainous area,
And do
or
you
when
find
the
that it's pretty precise? And is
yes,
it
yes,
That's great. I was using an app called Photo Pills,
hmm,
Pills,
yes,
and I used it for the augmented reality feature because then I could hold the phone up and then
hmm,
point at where the line, like the arc of where the sun would be.
hmm,
Um, and I think it worked pretty well, but I don't use it every day. I kind of just go like you know, I just go by whatever time sunset's going to be, but I like the idea of thinking about it with elevation. Now, is that now that we have apps and now that we have all of this technology, do you feel like it's changed the way that you've approached your photography, or has it stayed a lot the same? Like, are you shooting DSLR? Are you shooting like
I
what
just
kind
went
mirrorless?
I just went mirrorless a year ago.
Yes, me too. May 2022.
I got my camera actually a year ago, actually last weekend, I think it was. So I wanted to wait until Nikon had the glass that I wanted.
Mm. Like the what is it called with the Nikkor series? Is it RF also, or is it
Z,
what is it called?
Nikon, the Z lenses, as
The
they,
Z lens. Okay, so that's the mirrorless lens series.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm a Canon photographer only because that's the only one I've used. So,
Yep.
yeah, and so it's all the RF series, but the Z
Mhm.
lenses, yeah, that makes sense. And I hear people talking about those on forums, like they always post which camera, which lenses they're using. And were you waiting for the Z like 100 to 400? Like what was the lens that what's your baby? What's the lens you were looking for?
The lens that I was waiting for was the 400 2.8.
The 400 2.8.
Yes.
Wow.
It's 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 quite a nice lens because it has a built-in teleconverter. So I technically have four lenses in one
Amazing. Wow.
because yeah, because it can be a 400 2.8. If you go into crop mode, it can be a 400, I'm sorry, 600 2.8 because
Oh my
it,
goodness.
yeah, yeah.
Is that wow, 600? So you're carrying around a 400 lens that can double as a 600 and then wait, it can quadruple. So what are the other two settings?
So
Do you
then
remember?
when you engage the teleconverter, it's but not in crop mode, it's 560 f4. But if you engage the teleconverter and go into crop mode, it's an 860 f4.
Oh, no wonder you were like, yes, that one, please.
Yeah.
Uh, so you
Yes.
still get f4, but at 860
Millimeters. Yes.
millimeters.
Yes.
That's epic. I've never shot on anything more than a 400, so I don't even know what that would be like. I guess I'll have to try it sometime, but I'm usually not that far away from my subject.
Right. Right.
So, in our world, like the thing that I shoot day in, day out, everybody's like, even if it's like from their attic and in through slatted old rusty
Mhm.
like a grate, they're like, "Oh, we have a Bay Bridge view." And so I'm always up there with like my lens pressing it out the window or trying to like lean it out, even sometimes
Yeah.
like a dormer window, because people are like crazy about that, and they're like, if you don't get the view, you like every other shot's perfect, but you just didn't get it. And so,
Right. Right.
um, so that's what I'm always trying to chase, and that's why the fog kills us. But in your world, your objects that you're looking for are not only are they moving like a car on the street,
Mhm.
where they're heading, they're not going to go crazy, but like you're shooting eagles or, I
Or
mean,
bears
fish.
or yeah, birds or bears or eagles or whatnot. And you have to, and I guess that's part of where the knowing animals comes in,
Mm.
right? Because you learn that animal behavior. At this eagle location, for example, you know they're going to come in as the tide is going out. So you have to know when the tide is going to be going out, but you also have to learn about the behavior that the adults will be matter of fact, they'll come in, get their fish and go. The juveniles will, because they're juveniles and they're naughty.
They're easily
Um,
distracted like kids, right?
they do, and they fight with each other. And if there's blue heron around, they'll harass the blue heron. And if there's no blue heron, and there's other things to harass, they'll harass the other things. And so on either side of this little bay, there are trees. So they'll go from one end of the trees to the other, or they'll go to the trees on the other side of the road kind of bridge, and there's trees back there. So you learn their pattern, and
Mm-hmm.
you learn to kind of predict what they're going to do. Does it always work out? No.
Mm,
But when it does, it's rather nice. Um, let's see. With the bears, like I'm going back up to Alaska in August. Uh, the bear guides, you really depend on the bear guides. And the
and
bear
you're
guide,
looking for bears. Like most people are like, get me out of the bear country as fast as possible. And you're like, nope, I don't even bring bear spray. I just want to be near the bears.
well, where I'm going, and eh, the subspecies of brown bear that that are where we're going, they're called coastal brown bears.
Mm.
And there is so much food there that they don't even care about us.
Ah,
And um, the sows, the moms, have been around for years,
I see.
and they're pretty habituated to humans there.
Hmm.
And the guide that we go with knows the bears very well. My first time there, when we got there, the lodge owner and the guide sat us all down. I said, "We have a young bear, and he likes to charge at people,
Mm.
and he's going to do it. And we are correcting him so we don't have to euthanize him. So we're
Oh,
trying to
wow.
break him out of this."
Wow.
And
Breaking out, but they're trying to like when they say train, it's a wild animal that they're observing from a distance, but they're still trying to give it some sort of like signal that this is
yes,
bad idea to come
yes,
towards the humans. Like you
correct,
might die if you come towards us.
correct.
Okay.
And national parks will do this.
Okay.
Um, and I'll tell you about that in a second because national parks very much does this as well. Um, and actually, we are in a national park up there too, so it's probably part of how they're supposed to do this.
Mm.
So this bear, young bear, um, one morning we were out shooting and it decided to charge me and another like one of the gals that I was with, and the guide put his hand on our shoulders to make sure that the instinct to run didn't take over because it was about to take over because you've got this bear running toward you,
Wow.
and he stops the bear with his voice, and this bear just sits down, looks at him, looks at us, sighs. I'm not kidding. Bear sighs.
The bear size like no more blueberries for Sal or something.
Uh-huh.
Like
Yeah, like, okay, fine. And then Dave tells the bear to go, and the bear goes.
wow.
Um, they,
That's some serious Dr. Doolittle right there. Like that's some
yeah,
serious talking to animals. So he felt confident that he could somehow like alpha this bear with
yes,
his voice
yes,
by commanding and not backing down.
correct,
But he also had expected that the bear would charge. So you guys
correct.
were waiting for it, but you still had a fight or flight instinct.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. I mean, we expected it, but
Wow.
you still have that instinct that kicks in. But he's been doing this for 20 years, so he knows
Yeah.
if this is going to happen, you've got to protect the guests who, will have just that flight instinct.
Yeah.
In the parks down here in the lower 48, what they do is they have the flare guns.
Mm-hmm.
So if a bear gets too close to people, because a lot of times, I mean, for example, in Yellowstone and Grand Teton, the bears are very popular and they create a lot of crowds. And there is a bear named Raspberry
Mm.
in Yellowstone who loves to come by people. She just thinks it's the greatest thing. But they don't want her close to people.
Right.
So they will yell at her. They will, as soon as a bear is sighted, especially in Tetons and in Yellowstone, they'll send a ranger out
Mm-hmm.
to just kind of observe the interactions.
That's good. And well, that's good because there's a lot of people camping there too, right? It's or is it are you talking like further like are you so far back country that you're not near campsites where these aren't your regular bears just wandering into Yosemite being like, I want to
Um,
go through your backpack.
no, these are well-known bears that are on the road, for example,
Mm.
or by the road where people can stupidly go and take a selfie with them.
Okay.
If they,
Yeah,
and that's not a smart thing to do. But
right.
um they don't want the bears down here to get habituated. The one they call 399 in the Tetons is very much habituated. I mean, she will
Wow.
just sit there with her babies and let people photograph them. Um,
Huh.
in Alaska, we go from Anchorage and then take a float plane over to the lodge, and then we go around, and the bears are everywhere. So it's
Mm-hmm.
not like you have to hunt them down and try and
Wow.
figure out where they're at.
And the type of photos you're taking are you're trying to get the bear in its natural habitat, going
Right.
about its day, doing something interesting. I feel like you posted on Monday this week. It wasn't a bear, but was it a gopher? It was like an
Yes.
animal. Was it a
It was a
gopher?
marmot. It was a marmot.
Okay, so the marmot had its eyes closed, and I don't know
Yep.
if you can see me, but the marmot here, I'll go to the side. The marmot
Yep.
is like this.
Yep. Yep.
It's like standing there chilling,
Sleeping. Yeah.
sleeping, sitting up,
Yes.
and you caught this expression on the face of the animal that I was
Yeah.
like, are you shooting like a million frames? I mean, are you shooting just a million frames or are you just waiting for the one? Like, what's your technique to get that look?
So what I do is, if it's something I haven't seen before, I'll shoot it just to get a couple shots. And then I'll observe and say, okay, what is going to be something that is impactful? And we had caught the marmots where we were in eastern Washington were everywhere where we were looking for owls. And we got back to this one area where there were the burrows for the burrowing owls. And there were two marmots chilling out. One of them was on a rock, I kid you not, sunbathing.
Like this, like
Totally chilling out. And then this other one was kind of doing different things, and it would just kind of hang out the way it was hanging out. But what marmots do, because they're kind of in the squirrel family, they will stand up on two legs to look to see what is around. And then we saw that it was just there with its eyes closed. So we took a couple shots a little further out. Then we started kind of coming in because with wildlife, you want to respect them. You want to respect
Mhm.
their space and uh, capture them at their comfort level. If they're not comfortable, you back off. And that's why I need the length of lens that I have.
Oh, for sure. It all makes sense. It absolutely makes perfect sense. I would want the 860 also, but I feel like that's the magic of it that you can even focus on something, that you can because I've noticed like on a longer lens like that because it's focusing on something really far away, I mean, you must have it on a tripod because you can't really shoot handheld with keeping something in focus like that. Or are you shooting handheld?
Some of it's handheld, like that marmot was handheld.
Seriously.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
That's incredible.
The birds I posted 2 days ago, yesterday, were handheld.
Mm.
The eagles were on a tripod. Um, and it just depends on where you're at, if you can have enough time to set up a tripod. With the
Yeah.
eagles, you know what's going to happen when they're going to come in. You set up a tripod because it can be a while.
Hmm.
Um, but with a marmot, we had just gotten there with the marmots. We had just gotten there, so got out of the car with our cameras, and we just kind of quietly went up to them. And then we realized it had its eyes closed, and it became even cooler because it
It's
was
super
not just.
cool. I know I want to share that photo, like, or I don't know if you have it shared anywhere publicly yet, but it is spectacular. I love it because like I said, it's like so much personality, and I feel like once you're observing the animals like that, you must have like some deeper connection to them than
Mhm.
just, you know, observing wildlife. It must seem like you get to know, like almost like you're in a Jane Goodall, like getting to know the,
Mhm.
the different species. And
Yeah.
how do you
Like,
feel about that? Has it made you more of a conservationist?
oh, absolutely. Absolutely. And if you notice, I don't share locations.
Yes, I've definitely noticed that.
And it's very much on purpose
Hmm.
because in this day and age of everybody can go in with their cell phone, they think, to take a
Yeah,
picture.
right.
It's not safe for them, and it's definitely not safe for the animals. A lot of times when we go and photograph, for example, the burrowing owls and where this marmot was, um, you are photographing from the road, but they're on farmland. And we're respectful and stay on the road and
Hmm.
not go on the farmland.
Hmm.
But if locations were to be shared, I can't guarantee that somebody else wouldn't do the same thing and be
Yeah,
respectful of the farmland.
yeah, absolutely. We have that too. It's one of the things that's hard because I love to do posts to share with other photographers what I'm
Mhm.
doing and how I'm going about my day. And basically it's sometimes next to impossible because you never know if for example, private property or a home is, uh, is the listing going to be on the MLS? Is it going to be public? Is it going to be off market? Is it something that they're waiting a few weeks to debut and you can't sort of spill it by revealing your location? So,
Right.
yeah, it's so tricky. And I would say that in your case, especially because people would see where you're going and then want to see, hey, can I go get a shot like that? Like they might come for that tourism. When I was in Lake Tahoe shooting a documentary in March, it was the same thing. We were shooting it we were doing some drone work, but we were really trying to be careful about how much we revealed of the
Hmm.
actual location, like by
Yep.
not showing um, the actual mountains, but really just showing like a bend in the river or a waterfall. Because the person that we were following is an artist and didn't want us to like in any way reveal the location. So
Mhm.
yeah, because they're
Yep.
afraid that these beautiful places will start to become, popular and then they'll be ruined. So,
A lot of it can be loved to death,
mhm.
and yeah, with a little bit of research, I'm sure if you Googled Eagles, Washington, you'd come up with a couple locations, and one of them would be where I was.
Yeah.
Um, it, but I don't, I don't like to share the locations just because there's there's enough that if you do your research, it also makes it more worth it and
Hmm.
more rewarding. Um, there in private, I will share with fellow photographers and we trade information back and forth.
Hmm.
Um, but I'm careful with who I do that with.
Yeah.
I Part of what led me on a big loop this weekend was going through, and I went into the Blue Mountains
Mm.
in Northeast Oregon,
Mm.
and I was searching for great gray owls.
Mm.
And great gray owls are very, very protected. And it's something that um, I wanted to get in there earlier, but there was too much snow.
Oh, wow. Right, because we had this crazy snow year.
Yes, yes,
Okay, so you were waiting, and is it because their season, they nest in the spring and then
yes.
they hatch, so
They,
you know where they are
yes,
if you can
yes.
find a
And I
nest.
missed them because I went too late, but I was able to figure out where the nesting platforms are. So for next year, I mean,
Yeah.
it's not a hurry to get a shot. It's figuring out how to get the shot that I want. And I pretty much know now how I want to get those shots. So that'll be cool. There's a Milky Way shot that I chased in Bandon, Oregon for 4 summers.
Really?
Hmm.
Wow.
Because
And
I would get fogged out.
yeah, you get fogged out. That's like trying to shoot the fireworks here on the 4th of July. Like we can't do it because it's always foggy.
Hmm.
But I have a dream. But 4 years, 4 summers to try and go to Bandon. Were you shooting during that eclipse when the totality came to
Yes,
Oregon?
yeah, I shot that.
Yeah, how was that?
It was interesting. It was fun to shoot. I shot it actually from a friend's front yard because that was she was in the path of totality, so that was cool. And it was funny because she wasn't into the eclipse at all. And I
Really?
said, "You're in the path of totality. Here are some glasses. You're going to come out during totality and watch this." And about I was getting all set up and she was insisting that I come have breakfast. I'm like, "No, no, no, no. I don't eat
Right.
until this is done."
Totally. Yeah, you're on a mission. This is a once in a lifetime, right?
Yes. So it's just, it's some people don't get that. I mean, this past weekend I drove 1,100 miles.
No way.
Uh-huh.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, it was a 3 day trek? You didn't do 1,100 miles in 2 days, did you?
Yeah, I did.
In 2 days, you drove. Okay, so that's incredible. That's amazing. My husband was just telling me he's driven 220 since yesterday, and I'm going to tell him you did 1,100 and be
Yep.
like, sorry, I know you were
Yep.
schlepping kids around, but
No, I did. I drove from Portland to Pendleton Friday night, and then Saturday morning we started from the hotel in Pendleton at 4 a.m. and drove into the Blues and drove one, two, three, four, five, 6 different forest roads to
wow.
get to try and find all the owl platforms, and then got out of there, went down to La Grande, tried to figure out where we were going to go next,
Hmm.
and we decided to go to Southeast Oregon
Mm.
to Malheur National Forest, or yeah, National Wildlife Refuge in the forest and all that, um, and see what we could find. I had heard that there were thousands of this bird called white-faced ibis.
Mm.
They usually don't go into Malheur, but they were there. And it's just been a real interesting year of how everything is going to where they can find water, where they can find places to nest. And we found them, and it was pretty cool.
Oh my, so were there thousands of birds there?
Of these birds, yes.
Oh my gosh.
Yes,
Wow.
yes.
Wow. We haven't seen those photographs yet, though.
No, those photographs, we'll see what I get out of the ibis. I'm probably going to go back and rephotograph them because by the time we found them, it was really, really late. The shrikes that I posted were from down there. And then Found some kestrels, nesting kestrels, which was nice. Everything is nesting late because of all that snow.
Mm.
So, except for the great grays, they didn't nest late, but you know,
They're like, there's so few of us. We gotta just start early.
yeah. But I mean, even the eagles that I went and photographed, usually that happens 2 weeks earlier than when I took those really good shots.
So
The
you
ones that,
have like something of a farmer's almanac in your brain about when these things are gonna be showing up at
yeah,
certain times in the
yeah.
season, and that must be an amazing community of friends. Now, is that the same community that you're doing all this with in the Northwest? And well, also, I should say internationally, because you do travel to, like you
Hmm.
mentioned, Mexico, and I think you've been to, was it Indonesia or?
In Indonesia in March, yes.
And so you were in Indonesia in March. And so you've been traveling internationally. How did this, so is this community of people that you're friends with through that group or those contacts, is that related to the PPA group or is it totally
It's
separate? And because I know that you have been winning awards in a variety of categories. Like there was
yeah,
a picture of you took a photograph of a boat, I think.
yes, in
That
Norway.
one, what was the name of that one?
That was Autumn Sunrise Reflections, I think is what I titled that one.
And that one won a
Mm-hmm.
big award at the PPA conference, right?
Yes, yes. And it's actually one of my best-selling images.
Oh, I
Um,
should definitely mention that. I will definitely put links in the
Thank
description
you.
if this gets posted, for where people can buy your photographs, which is that at
It's not, yes,
theamartinphotography.com?
yes, it is. Yes, on
Okay.
my website.
Okay, on your
Absolutely.
website. So people will have to go and purchase some of these photographs and look for that one in particular. Was that the first award that you won at the PPA event?
What's interesting is I'm competitive, and with PPA, it gave me that outlet. And it's interesting how because PPA is a lot of commercial portrait real estate photographers. There
Hmm.
is definitely some landscape and fine art, but it's a lot of portrait, it's a lot of commercial.
And
But
babies.
in the
Somebody I interviewed a friend a couple months ago and he went for the first time and he was like, "They've got babies here at the conference and they're showing you how to shoot babies." I was like, "Who brings their baby to a conference?" To like, but I guess it's like for the education and
it's for the education piece of it, absolutely.
amazing.
And so they all the worlds kind of intersect because people know each other. I mean, I'm sure that I know some of your photographer friends, or it's
Oh,
just
probably. Yeah,
it's all
probably.
it all intersects. And the the person that I do the most of my international travel with, or all of the international travel with, um, he's like a brother to me. And so he puts trips together, and you know, I go on whatever I can. And the picture of the boat that you're talking about, that was on the first trip I took with him. And he realized at that point that I do my own thing when it
Mm,
comes to landscape photography. I prefer not to be shoulder to shoulder with people. And
mm,
that does happen a lot in
hmm.
landscape photography, especially in more popular locations where everybody just kind of lines up and takes the same shot. Not me. And we were out the first morning, and he took everybody to one side of the lake. And I saw this single boat, and I saw what was going on with the light and how it was hitting the mountains and everything. And I just told him, I'm gonna stay over here.
Mm,
And he was like, well, but it's better over there. I said, just wait.
mm.
And he didn't know me very well at that point. And but he just let me be. And that night we were all downloading images, and he comes over and sits next to me and goes, "Okay, what was that shot that you took this morning?" And I showed it to him. He goes, "Okay, fine, just do whatever you want. You know what you're doing."
Clearly, you clearly know what you're doing. The shot was epic. It won at least in one category.
Yes. It won at OPPA, it won at PPA, and it ended up in at districts that because the way that it used to be with PPA, your four images would aggregate into
mm,
scores.
mm.
And so uh, that was actually my first year entering, and I got third place in landscape for the West Coast.
That's insane. That's incredible. Well, but you know, but this photograph was entered after you had already, I would say, like retired from working with Mick, right? So
Right. Oh, wait, and that was, did it also win at WPPI? I think it did.
I feel like it won numerous awards, and it was maybe around that time that I was like, oh wait, she's not doing as much with the dog show stuff. Yeah, let's
Hold
check
on a
that
second.
out. Yeah, let's
Hold on a
look at the
second.
actual award.
Yep, it did win at WPPI. I won first place in the landscape category there.
So that's the thing. Yeah, it's incredible. Like from Lake Ridge, like from high school photography to winning these international competitions for landscape. I
Yeah,
feel like when I went into the photography studio at our school, which was in this sort of rotunda thing,
right.
I should have spent my entire time in high school there, but I was somehow intimidated by that class, which is strange because I loved media studies in junior high, but I didn't go on with it and continue in high school. But you were like, I'm going to do this. Were you, I'm just curious, like, obviously you couldn't have seen the future, but how many kids from our school were that into photography in high
Not
school? Were
many.
you one of a few? Because I feel like you were
Not
the,
that many. Yeah,
I feel like it was the only one I know was you.
yeah. And well, and the thing is that with yearbook, if you remember, you may not know this, but um, they wanted everything to be in black and white because I think that was like when there were a whole bunch of budget cuts happening. I'm
Mm.
like, no, the yearbook can't all be in black and white. And I remember them saying, well, but black and white film is so expensive. I said, not if you roll it yourself. And they're like, oh,
Oh,
and so I saved money by rolling the film myself, developing it myself in our dark room, which I mean, they were just thinking, send it all out to be developed and processed.
right.
No, no, no. We can develop it. We can develop the negatives, choose what we want to print to decide what we want to use in the yearbook, and that'll save us money so we can have a color section.
Man, I feel like I'm having like one of those FOMO moments, but it's like many years too late to be able to go back and to take photography in high school. But that sounds like it sounds like a huge success. You were like like I don't know, I would say unsung hero, but I remember you showing up at events and I remember seeing you with your camera,
Mm-hmm.
and I had no idea you were developing all of that yourself in our school in the dark room, and that you also had to convince the staff to let
Yeah.
you do black and white because they wanted to just go the cheaper route. That's
Well,
awesome.
right. Well, because if we did that, then we could buy the rolls of color film and then pay for the developing of that because the school didn't have the the equipment to develop color, which is still a very different process than developing black and white.
Wow. Wow. Do you have a dark room at like at your house, or what is
I
how do you do that now? How do you, because it's all digital. Do you still have a craving to shoot on film and to develop it?
I don't. I have all the equipment for a dark room, and the way that um, my garage is, it's a tandem, so I could put the back end to be a darkroom, and I may eventually do that. But one process that my dad does that when he was living here, still living here in Portland, what we would do together is called platinum processing. I don't know if you've ever seen
Oh, no,
it.
because I never did any of the manual processing. I always like I would always send it out or eventually like I've been doing digital photography basically, since I was probably like 25. Like that's about it. That's like
Mhm.
yeah.
So with the platinum stuff, it's sh- you can shoot it on you shoot it on digital, then you print your
Mm.
negative, and
Oh,
yeah,
I see.
and you print your negative, and the negative is the size of your print,
Mm.
and then it's not a darkroom process, but you're still using the chemicals and you're still processing everything. It's pretty cool. And so
Wow.
it still gives you the feel of doing a manual process, and each print turns out different, which is really cool because it's a
That's
manual process.
that's so awesome. Yeah, no, I have shot three homes in the Berkeley area that have dark rooms.
That's
And
cool.
it's always a surprise and it's always this treasure and I go, wow, like, because a lot of Berkeley Hills homes have like they're built on a hill and so there'll
Yeah.
be like these strange little small rooms that just happens to be where you can fit this one thing and something like a dark room and so I've seen them kind of at least one a year. I feel
Cool.
like I'll run into a dark room at one point in the season. I'll be like, huh, that is so cool. And then I want to spend an inordinate amount of time shooting these like vintage dark rooms in people's houses.
That's
um
cool.
some of them even had like, they have the closets with the hangers to dry, for everything to
Yes.
dry. And I mean,
Yes.
some of them are really beautiful. It's like, it's really cool.
Yes. That's
So
cool.
the platinum process is the way to do it if you're trying to do it from a digital print.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, I'll look into it. I wonder if they have that here in the Bay Area. They must at like Looking Glass Photo or one of the places that still does
Mhm.
things and teaches.
Yep.
Um,
Yep.
So when so you got your, I guess you dipped your toe in the water, but you went big on your first
Yeah, I did.
entrance into this competitive photography world. But
Hmm.
then since then, I mean, wouldn't say that is it a contest to get on the cover of the magazine? I mean, because that's like, I mean, that to me is like, that is not just an honor. That's like almost the honor of honors because they're putting
It's
you on,
pretty epic.
like that's getting on the cover of like in our world of photography, that's like, there's Architectural Digest to get on the cover
Right.
of that, or there's this magazine, which is you're basically being viewed by all of your peers. I
Yes.
mean, how did that happen? And was that something that you were just like, I mean, the shot is beautiful. Let's just say that the shot is otherworldly
Thank you.
gorgeous. And
Thank you.
maybe you can describe it a little bit and
Sure.
tell me more about this whole, how it came to be.
Sure. So, like I've said, I like to make things my own. And shooting the Milky Way at Mount Rainier, you can easily go and do it. It's kind of a make sure you're not going up on a night where it's going to be smoky and the moon's not out. You can get a shot of Mount Rainier with the Milky Way. But and I have that. No big deal. Um, I like to make things more creative. And a lot of my shots are very natural, except for when I want to get artistic.
Mm,
And um, my friend Josh, who is an incredible night photographer, and he doesn't think he is, but he is.
mm,
He texts me and says, "I'm going up," um, and unfortunately, the prime season for Milky Way is in August.
mm,
The season is basically from end of March to September, but really good prime time is in August. But August has been very smoky up here the
It's
last.
been, yeah,
You
it's
you
been
can't.
terrible because of the wildfires the
Yeah.
last few years, except for last year, I guess.
Yeah, last year we got it late. We got the smoke later. But this was 2 years ago. And so he texts me in July and says, I'm going to go up in July. It's not going to align perfectly, but it'll work. And who knows what August is going to be like.
Yeah.
All right. So we drive up there, and it's a commitment to do night photography. So um, we hike up, and usually when you are doing creative shots like this, you get your base shot during blue hour, so
Mm.
during twilight, and then you shoot your night sky. And
Like
we were
one setup. Wait, I don't want to interrupt you, but you're not moving your tripod. You're staying in the same spot then for hours.
you can. For this one we didn't because
Mm.
uh, where where the Milky Way comes on the mountain, you can get from pretty much anywhere.
Got it.
But for shooting Milky Way in a location where you're shooting blue hour and then the Milky Way, yes, you leave your tripod where it is.
Wow.
So it takes commitment.
Seriously, yeah, like you got to be committed to that spot. Okay, so you guys decide you're going to shoot it during blue hour to get your base shot, and
Yeah.
then you're going to stick around until the Milky Way does its show.
Yes. Yes. So we were hiking around trying to figure out what we're gonna shoot, and we spot these flowers. And he's like, "Should we?" I said, "Sure. Why not?" And uh, yeah, you could shoot them, from far away and try and compress the mountain and whatnot. I knew that the mountain needed to be in good focus, but I didn't need to have everything.
Mm.
Um, I didn't need to have like the sky all perfect or anything like that. And at that point, I still had the 850 and the Nikon 850. And I think this was the first camera that did focus shift shooting in camera
Oh wow.
for Nikon. So I knew that I needed to do the focus shift, the focus stacking that it does
Hmm.
to get everything in focus from those flowers all the way up to the mountain.
Yeah.
And he got impatient because he's a Sony shooter and his camera doesn't have that.
Mm.
Um,
And
I say
focus
that,
stacking, because I don't, maybe my R5 has that, but I've never used that. You're still focusing manually, but
no,
you're not focusing manually.
no, the
It like
camera does all the
runs through a
focusing.
process then
Uh-huh.
of like it'll go from the furthest out to the closest in, and then it's just
Moving
taking
the
a whole
focus point.
bracketed series of
Yes, yes,
focuses,
yes,
foci.
yes. So it takes
Interesting.
however many slices of the stuff in focus that you want.
Wow.
So from the bottom flowers up to the mountain, I want to say it was like 40 shots
Yeah, I
to get,
bet.
to get that all in focus.
Like all that depth, because you have the mountain, you have the trees, you have the flowers in the foreground, you have like some rocks and some
Yep. The little ground flowers.
ground flowers.
Yes.
Interesting. So,
Yep.
so you had a vision for using that, which previously, in order to get that kind of focus that quickly, you'd be just like manually trying to shift it and then take 40 shots, right?
Yep. Yep.
Wow.
Yep. And his camera didn't do that, and he was a little frustrated by the whole thing. And I joked with him because he had an 850 and sold it to go to Sony mirrorless. And so he loves that I got the shot, and he loves what I did with it. But he's like, God,
Yeah,
he
sure.
wishes
Of
he still had the equipment to do what I did.
course.
And so I took the Focus Stack series. I think I did it 3 times because if your field work isn't right, you can't do it.
Right.
And so I got the shots, and then we hiked down to our cars and chilled out until it was time to shoot the Milky Way. And we got to about the same position. We didn't go as far up the mountain as those flowers were, but enough of the position to get the Milky Way. And there are a couple different ways to shoot the Milky Way. The way that he does it, and I agree with him, is you shoot 8 to 12 shots and then you stack them with
Mm-hmm.
a star stacking program to reduce the noise.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Especially if he has what's called Star Tracker,
Mm.
and um, I could do it with a Star Tracker, but then it's another piece of equipment that you have to
Right.
lug around, and you have to be able to find Polaris to be able to use the Star Tracker correctly, and yeah,
Wow.
it's very
Is that
technical.
like a motorized thing that
Yes.
follows the Milky Way? Yeah, I have a friend, Andrew Burwell, who I worked with, and he is a pretty accomplished night photographer. So shoots like, I mean, it's pretty amazing what he can do. But he has
Mhm.
the timer and they do long, like, I don't know, 6 hour shoots or something.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. You can do long, long, long shoots with a Star Tracker.
Yeah.
And I knew I could do that, but it's more equipment. And
Mm-hmm.
then getting it set up, and it's sometimes hard to find Polaris. So I just do it old school and take multiple shots and then stack them.
Mm-hmm.
And then the processing of this it took some time.
I can imagine. I can imagine. It is so beautiful. And so then you maybe sent it in or you shared it or how did you debut this photograph?
So I sat on it for a bit,
Mm,
and then I entered it in the OPPA competition to see how it would do. Judges liked it. It did really well. And it's interesting because sometimes with the local competitions, if they know the area, they may not be as wowed by it.
mm-hmm,
And then I was helping. I that's right. I entered it at the our local competition, and then I entered it again at the annual OPPA competition.
mm-hmm,
Just the way the rules are, you can enter it for different awards at the different competitions. So I re-entered it for that, and there were out-of-state judges, and they went gaga over it. I thought, all right, cool. And then I entered it one other time. I entered it in Minnesota. I was helping them with the competition. And so I thought I'd support their competition by entering it there, and it did really well. So that was fun. And then I entered it in PPA, and I was pretty confident in it. But you can never be too confident with competitions because as much of the parameters that are set, which are very well set by PPA,
mm-hmm.
still the human element. But it did really, really well. And then the way that I understand it, the covers are chosen from images that receive the highest designation by PPA, which is image excellence.
Mm,
So then the staff goes through and chooses images to use for their advertising, images to use on their social media, images to use in their collateral from the image excellence collection. And um, before the cover, I've had my Death Valley, New Zealand, and Tetons. I've had 3 other images used
wow.
by PPA. And one of their staff admitted to me that they always look forward to my images, which is kind of cool to hear.
That's amazing. I look forward to your images.
So they always look forward to my images, And so I was like, oh, that's nice. And and then I was contacted in January and they said, hey, can we use your image? And I thought, sure, it'll be in, and the gal said, it'll be in our April issue. She said nothing about it being on the cover. Nothing.
Really?
Yeah,
And so
nothing.
you didn't know until it came out that it was selected for the cover?
Yes,
Oh my gosh.
yes. So
Wow.
I'm actually sitting getting my hair done, and a friend sends me a text of the cover of the magazine. I'm like, wait a minute, what? Because I hadn't really told anybody because
Yeah.
I knew that it was going to be in the April issue, but I didn't know how they were going to use it, so I didn't want to say anything until it was actually published.
Yeah.
And then she sends me a picture of her copy of it.
That's nuts. That's so nuts. And then, so I guess that's the part that I was so surprised about because I feel like I saw the image, but I wanted to talk to you specifically. I mean, for so many reasons, but
Right.
especially because, like, was there an article that went along with this that explained how you got the image? Like,
Yes,
I just feel like
yes,
it's like there's a story. Was there in the
yes,
magazine like a
yes,
description
yes,
of it? So,
yes.
because I didn't get it to my house. I don't get the subscription or I don't think
I'll
I'm a
send you a
member,
copy.
right?
I've got extras.
Oh, okay, okay. That would be amazing. That would be
Yeah.
amazing. So, the so I was missing that part of it, like the article, but I wanted to talk to you about it because I was like, that's incredible. Like that's literally incredible.
It
And
is.
I was just blown away. So, um, yeah, and then when you found out you got the cover, your friends must have just started going crazy, right?
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. I started getting calls and texts and messages, and the funny part is that it took for absolutely ever for me to get actually my copy of it. Everybody was
What?
getting it,
Really?
and
Yeah, come
but
on. You deserve it. Yeah, you need like a special box sent to you with a thank you saying, "Hey,
they actually the publisher did send me some extra copies and said it with a nice little note, which was really nice.
amazing." And are you selling that image also on your website
Yes.
or not yet? You are selling that. Okay.
And it's not on my website yet, but the way that the cart on my website works is you can say pick any image and then I can make it to order.
That's awesome. And are you printing your images on canvas or are you doing them on paper? What, or is it of everything if people wanted to buy an image
Um,
from you?
whatever people want to do. This image, because it's a night image, they work best on either metal or metallic paper.
Mm, wow. Okay, good to know. Okay, so if anybody's going to purchase this image, and what was the name of the image again?
Dr. Seuss Starry Night.
Dr. Seuss Starry Night. So it
Yeah.
captures the imagination. It has that sort of fairy tale or the whimsical thing going
Yes.
on. And the flowers have the whimsical look to them as well. Like
Well,
it's
they're the
unbelievable.
Dr. Seuss flowers, right? They're the
They
pastel
literally
flowers.
are the Dr. Seuss flowers. Like it's
Uh-huh.
crazy. I didn't know those were real. I didn't know they were based on real flowers.
Yeah. Yeah, they're Pasqua flowers, and they're the flowers, the trufla tree flowers.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That is crazy. That is so crazy. What a great story. Yeah, that belongs in many people's homes. I think that especially people who love Dr. Seuss, I mean, it's like,
Hmm.
it's just that connection to where it comes from and the inspiration for him. I think that it's yeah, it's beautiful. Um so Dr. Seuss Starry Night. So if anybody goes to your website and they go to your cart, they can actually send you a message and say, okay, Thea, I want this one
Uh-huh.
and print it for me on metallic, a metallic uh, paper
Right.
and and uh, and that's the way to go.
Yep.
Okay,
Yep.
I absolutely love it. Um, well, I mean, goodness, is there anywhere? I mean, you said you're doing this more often. Like, I think you're traveling more often. Is there anywhere that's on your like bucket list of I've got to still go here and I just haven't planned the trip yet? Or is the list too long to even have one at the top?
List is rather long. It's funny because people will say, "Hey, you want to go on this trip?" And I say, "Well, I have everything planned through 2024 already."
Do you
Um,
really? You have all
oh
your
yeah,
trips already planned for a whole year already.
yeah, yeah,
Amazing.
and
Okay.
probably a lot of 2025 is kind of already firming up. Um, there are a couple places I want to get to. Faroe Islands is one, but that is so
Mm-hmm.
tough to get to
Mm-hmm.
because flights get canceled because of where it's at.
Mm-hmm.
It gets the way that is situated, it's always stormy,
Mm.
regardless of what time of year.
Where do you
And
fly into if you're going to try to go to travel to the Faroe Islands?
Scotland,
Scotland. Okay, so you've got to get there in the 1 month when they have good weather.
right,
This is
right,
like a kind of a summer trip, but maybe not a maybe a September trip. But then there's a lot of places in the northern hemisphere that are really nice in September, so that's
yeah,
tough.
yes,
Wow.
yeah.
Wow. Okay, so Faroe Islands, Scotland. What about like Mexico, South America? Have you traveled extensively in that
N-
region already?
Not a lot yet. Let's see. I am going to Africa next February.
Okay, I'm excited about that. I feel like I'm the editor now. I'm like, oh, I can't wait to see what you do.
Africa is going to be very fun. We're going to Tanzania, which is very beautiful, very beautiful backdrops for your um, for the wildlife. And we're going during baby season,
Mm,
so hopefully lots and lots of babies.
like baby elephants, baby zebras, those kinds of things.
Yes,
Wow,
yeah,
wow. Bring on the baby mammals. We want to see
yes,
all of those. That's
yes,
so cute. That's so awesome. So,
yes.
what about National Geographic? Like, is that, how do you go from this? Or maybe you've already been in Nat Geo. Have you
No,
been in
I have
touch with
not
those
been in.
editors?
I have not been in touch with those editors. It's one of those things that you have to know somebody to get there. And honestly, I think that that's still kind of an old boys club.
Mm, yeah, it probably is. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know because it's like one of my dreams. Here, I'll show you my thing. Here, check this out. This is the closest. And then every once in a while I have other things. I have the Barbie
Oh,
and she has a camera.
awesome. Yes, yes. In her safari gear.
There's a party gear. That's like my kids are always like, "Can we open that?" Like, no, you can't open
No,
it. It stays in
no.
the box. And this is timely because you know the Barbie movie's coming out.
Oh,
But
that's
I don't want the
right.
pink. I don't want the pink Barbie. I want the National Geographic Barbie. Like, I
Right.
want that story. I don't care about the I have a pink car and Ken, you know.
Okay. So one of the camera bag manufacturers has made a woman's photography bag. Luckily, it's not pink, but the color that they chose is not much better.
Wow. Okay, what color is it?
It's not a mint green, but it's a very girlish type green blue. And I want to write to them and say, on what planet is that good when you are out with wildlife? They're going to see
Right.
that and run.
Right. Yeah.
No,
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's a very, very,
no.
very bad idea. And yeah, I've seen that there are some manufacturers of women's camera bags and things like that, but that I would say that that's one of the problems that I have is that I have a lot of really just like really they just look like they're for sure designed by guys and they're mostly probably worn by guys, like almost
Mhm,
everything I own. Um Even the think tank stuff, which it tends to be a little bit sleeker in its design,
mhm.
is still fairly Yeah, still fairly masculine. And I
Yeah.
yeah, but it's not, we're not even talking about just like the gear, like the camera is relatively is neutral, right? But I hear you.
Well, but my DSLR, my hands didn't fit to reach
Oh,
the function buttons in the front of it.
really? Because you needed longer fingers?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
So it's still very much a man's world.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and it's sometimes hard to get respect. I was in New Zealand. We were at this beautiful sunrise spot, Lake Matheson. Everybody goes and shoots Lake the sunrise at Lake Matheson.
Mm.
And because of it, we got there really early because we knew it was going to be crowded. Normally, when I go on these trips with my friend, we don't go to places when it's going to be crowded, except for places like this where
Mm-hmm.
if you want the shot, you just gotta grin and bear the crowds.
Yeah.
We get there, I'm set up, then this guy comes, sets up next to me, and I'm finishing up, kind of getting everything ready on my tripod and whatnot, and he starts changing the settings on my camera.
What? You are joking.
No, he starts changing the settings on my camera. And I look at him and he doesn't speak English, and I just say no.
Yeah. Did he understand that? Like the guy alphaing the bear? Was he like, did he understand it was time to back off?
Yeah, and the thing is that my friend immediately comes over and is like, "What's going on?" And I said, "He touched my camera." Well, I heard you bark, basically, because it was a bark no. And I just was afraid. I said, "I got this," but he tried to change the settings on my camera.
Was he trying to mess with you and mess up your photo, or was he trying to like mansplain to
He was
you through
mansplaining
he's mansplaining?
that my settings are wrong.
That is infuriating. That is infuriating.
Yeah, yeah.
Wow.
And my friend looks at me and goes, "Does that guy have a death wish or something?
Yeah.
I won't even touch your camera."
Whoa. That's
Yeah.
got to be like in terms of boundaries being crossed, like one I've never even
You
heard of
don't
that.
touch somebody else's camera without permission. You just don't.
No, I
You
can't
just
even believe
don't.
that, Thea. That is like beyond. That is
Yeah.
beyond. What you don't know what language he spoke. You have no idea.
Chinese.
He spoke Chinese.
Yeah.
So, and then did he move his tripod away from you once you realized that this was
No.
not a good place to be? No?
No. He just stayed there, but I just made sure that he didn't get close to my gear.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Well, bad boundaries. Yeah, but I've never heard of anybody doing something like that. Uh, but you think it
Unfortunately, it
happens?
happens. It
Yeah.
happens with you'll be out in the field, and this was the first time that somebody actually had touched my camera,
Yeah.
but um I was out with my friend Lois, and um her dad actually also left her left her all his Nikon stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
so we've kind of bonded over some of that.
Mm.
And we were out with our big lenses and our cameras, and these guys come up to us and go, "Whoa, do you know how to use those?"
Uh-huh. Yeah. Get out. Yeah.
How
I
much
always
was that?
wonder when they're intimidated by the longer lenses, I'm like, hey, it's like, what's your, just because you think that you know everything about photography, that somebody holding a fancy camera and a fancy lens that doesn't
Mhm.
like look like what you think that the person holding that camera should look like,
Right.
that you would even question it. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable.
Yep. So, and that's why I do my thing. And if I get
Mhm.
published, I get published, and my work will stand up on its own. And sure, would it be nice to be recognized by Nat Geo? Cool. But I do know that Nat Geo goes for what's on trend.
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And some of my stuff may not necessarily be on trend because I will do my own thing with shooting. I don't know if you saw the orangutan through the deep forest. And it
I didn't see
was,
that one. Is it a recent post?
yeah, it's on Facebook. It's probably from back from April.
Okay, I'll
Um,
go back and look. I'm excited to see that one. So no, but I
uh,
didn't see that.
and 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 it's a mother, and she's kind of looking up, kind of looking to see where the males are. But the only thing in focus really is her, and it's
Mm,
all leaves that are in bokeh. And it's not something that is your traditional
mm,
shot, right?
mm-hmm,
And then even on the eagle shot, I on purpose, you didn't need to see all the wing. I cropped that.
mm-hmm.
You didn't need to, I mean, the animal has all the wings, and
Right.
it has, but it was more impactful to
Yeah.
be a tight shot.
Yeah. I think that this is like the whole point for me about having your own voice as a photographer is to follow your instincts. And I think
Hmm.
that uh if you're doing it for yourself, then you're not going to worry about is it going to be,
Right.
fitting into somebody else's sort of, you know, in idea of what it should look like in the in the on trend, like you were saying.
Right.
So
Right.
it's on your trend, and that's what really matters.
Right.
It's like this what
Exactly.
he is excited about right now, and
Right.
her whole next 20 into 2025, you know,
Right.
that's what to look for because that's where you're going to be making some, I mean, it's hard to believe that your best work is ahead of you, but I believe that
Oh,
there's
thank
more
you.
amazing stuff to come. I really do. And
Thank you.
I'm thrilled to see how, as of course, like when I saw a female photographer, friend of mine from way back in the day, dedication to photography for forever. And what I love especially about you is that this competitive spirit that you have is just so much driving you,
Mhm.
to do better, like to push yourself creatively.
Right. And that's what the competition does. It really does push you to become a better image maker. It
Hmm.
pushes because you're only competing against really yourself. Yeah, there
Hmm.
are the placements and whatnot, but you're really competing against yourself to to do better each time, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
And so that really makes it so you're thinking about those things in the field when you're out there shooting and not just going, okay, how do I fix this in post?
Hmm. Right, which is that must be such a almost just a luxury because you're not trying to deliver it for anybody else. You don't have a client, right? The client
Right,
is you.
right, right. And the client is me. The client is my voice. And if somebody wants to purchase it, wonderful,
Yeah.
wonderful. Um, there was one, I shot this in Yellowstone, and I love going to Yellowstone in the wintertime. It's absolutely the best time to go.
Wow.
And we, the person that I go with, the coach driver, because when you go in the wintertime, you have to go in by snow coach. And the snow coach driver that he hires knows that we're all photographers, knows that we all want to be in for first light and for last light.
Hmm.
And by the time last light came around, it was this incredible, the colors that can happen in the greater Yellowstone ecosystem are incredible. And light there can go on forever.
Mm.
And where we were, there wasn't a lot to shoot to make a compelling image. And so I started playing with in-camera motion with the sunset.
Mm.
And I entered one of the images I made into the PPA competition, not knowing what the judges would do. And I got very lucky that one of the judges on the panel is very much a fine art photographer. He's actually in your neck of the woods, I'm
Oh,
pretty sure.
wow. Wow.
And he fought for it, and he said, this is not something you see every day. This is a fine art piece. It needs to be
Mm.
rewarded. And it
Hmm.
was it was fun. He actually recognized it. But then again, that's the luck of the draw.
Yeah, it's like you have to have that advocate for you
Hmm.
who recognizes the thought that you're putting into this
Right,
and understands like no, this is unique. This is something that you don't see every day.
right.
So I like that. I like that you have people who can look at your image and actually even see what's going on. Like they understand the technical decisions that you made
Hmm.
in order to achieve the shot.
Right.
And, you know, so that's just amazing. So, gosh, well, Thea, I feel like I could chat with you forever and ever and
I
ever.
know.
And I hope that actually maybe we can have another chat like this again
Sure.
soon. Maybe after some of your next adventures and after I, get to take a look at some of these other images, I feel like,
Sure.
the people that are watching my channel or who are, following sort of the evolution of what I do at Hopscotch, they know that really for me, it's all about just learning and asking questions. And I really feel like you're a very inspirational photographer, and more
Thank you.
people should know not just your work, but they should also know you.
Oh,
And
thank you.
so, yeah, so I'm really glad that we got this chance to catch up and so that I can
Absolutely.
learn and hear your philosophy about these different projects because it's like I said, it's really inspiring.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate that.
Yeah. So, well, I've been chatting with Thea Martin from Thea Martin Photography, and it has been an incredible and wide-ranging discussion about all of her amazing adventures in photography. And if anybody wants to catch up with Thea or to follow her, they should go to your website, which is again
TheaMartinPhotography.com.
TheaMartinPhotography.com. Or are you on Instagram as well? Or
I am on Instagram as thea.martin.pdx.
okay, so thea.martin.pdx is the other place to follow her. And of course, you can check out her work, which is for sale in the shop. And I'm looking forward to seeing all the amazing things that she makes in the next year and years to come. So thank you
Thank
so
you.
much for chatting with me this evening. And I just look forward to seeing all your work.
Thank you.